welcome to the Community Podcast. Once again, we are in the Zoom zone. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch, and I'm still here at Big Condo Studios here off of Vauxhall Road. But we actually go far and deep to get out people that we want to talk to in the community. Remember, I said this podcast is about talking to people I find are doing something interesting that I find that is worthwhile talking about and having a conversation with them. And I decided to kind of like go out of Liverpool today and go all the way over to Manchester to old friend, an old and dear friend who used to run what is known as the Kino Film Festival. And it's good to hear that it is back. The Manchester International Short Film Festival. And once again, curated by my man, John. Well, I'll call him John Kino until he tells me to call him by his real name. So welcome, John. How you doing?
Hi, Chase. How you doing, man?
All right, man. It's been
It's
ages.
been a long time.
No, definitely, man.
I know. It's really good to see you.
What's great is that a lot of people don't realize that I've been here in England for 20 years. And in my early days, because I had just come straight from making music videos in the States, I was looking for that filmmaker community. And we had a small community in the Northwest in Liverpool, but a lot of people were like migrating over to Manchester. And I myself ended up going over there. And thankfully, John was able to showcase some of my earlier film works and stuff in the Kino Film Festival.
Yeah.
And I mean, now I know Kino Film is isn't that like a German word, like where films were first created in cameras or something in Germany or something like that? Kino Film.
Well, Kino, of course, is a word for literally translation is cinema.
Yeah.
And all across, I wouldn't say it's not. I mean, obviously, often people get confused and say that it's German, because you can say it's Polish, it's Czech, it's Russian. All over Eastern Europe, cinemas are generally called kino because kino is cinema.
Oh wow! Well,
kino is cinema, yeah.
And it also.
And I originally.
I'm sorry.
I originally came up with it from. Sorry, Chase.
Yeah.
I originally came up with it from the Kino Eye movement, which is a Soviet montage,
Yeah.
The Soviet montage movement, called Kino Eye, which is obviously where I originally came from, because I was quite interested in that film movement. So I picked up on the kino, on the word kino.
Yeah.
A long time before the kind of worldwide kino movement, because as you know, there's a whole network of kino groups throughout the world. But obviously, I adopted the word kino for our kino in Manchester in 1993, which is well before the international chain of kinos came up. But so I really picked it up from the Kino Eye movement, and obviously the world, how it is used for the word cinema throughout Eastern Europe.
Yeah. Well, I just find it interesting that you said about the montage movement, because I mean, as a studier of a film, you had Einstein, which was kind of like the one who kind of like created all that whole montage filmmaker style. And I've been to Berlin, where I mean, like film comes out of Germany in that aspect. So I just find all of that bit fascinating. Here we are, a bunch of geeks running down the well. But so just tell us a little bit about the Kino Film Festival in this length. I mean, you say you started it in '93. I came along probably 10 years later in around 2003. And like, but this has been your baby ever since I've known you. So can you tell us about what you guys have been delivering over the years and your passion around it?
Well, I just to give you a little bit background, just before I set up Kino in 1993, I used to run a community cinema, probably before anybody else talked about community cinemas, in Hume in Manchester. Wow. Which people will know. It was Hume was where those great bands came from in Manchester, Stone Roses and the Smiths and all the cultural people in Manchester who was in the music scene. All came out of Hume, and there was a little old cinema called the Arben
Mm.
Arban Cinema, which is originally was the York Cinema, which was featured in the White Bus. Do you remember the film White Bus?
Oh.
With Sheila Delaney walked past it, and it was a very famous cinema before the days of the Corner House.
Oh,
You remember the
yes,
Corner
yes,
House,
yes.
which
Of
was
course, I
Manchester's
remember
art
Corner.
house cinema. So in Manchester, you had it going back in the 70s. Probably you had the Manchester Film Society movement, which was like showing art house movies, and it was like a film society. I can't remember what it was called, Manchester Film Club or something. And the
Mm.
Arban kind of took over that, because the Arban was a community cinema right in the middle of Hume, which was originally the York Cinema. Then it became Unit 4 Cinemas, and it was one of the first cinemas in the UK to be tripled or made into a 4 screen. In the early days of when cinemas were revitalised in the 70s from bingo halls into 4 screen cinemas, 2-3 screen cinemas. So it was one of those early ones owned by the Unit 4 Cinemas group, which was a northern cinema group, and the manager at the time was Jeff Banks, and he developed the name the Arban, because he'd recognised the change in the community from family community to the young professionals that were moving into Hume, and the bands and the musicians and all the creatives and the artists and the students and the squatters and the new age movement and all that kind of stuff. All these people coming into Hume, and he said, well, look, the families aren't here anymore, so let's start showing unusual movies and art house movies and classic cinemas like Polanski and Tarkovsky and Godard and Truffaut and all these great, fantastic films. And that's when I first got into movies, along with people like Mark Kermode and Danny Boyle and like Tony Wilson, and all these people who were in Manchester at the time would go to the Arban. And it was a great place. And it was before the Corner House, and it's legendary in Manchester. And I was involved in that cinema when Jeff Banks left it in the early 80s. I took over with another as manager, and then the cinema closed for a little while, and then I got the lease with another guy, and we reopened the cinema in the early 80s and ran it for a few years in a way that Jeff Banks had run it, showing that double bills every day in all 3-4 screens. We'd have double bills on, art house, cult movies, classic Hollywood films, Casablanca and all those, To Have and Have Not, and James Cagney, and everything. It was fantastic cinema. It was really good, but obviously it never really survived beyond 1990. It closed in 1990, I think, from what I remember, as Hume had been like depopularized, as the city council decided the old Hume was going to go. City Challenge came along, and Hume was knocked down, bulldozed along, unfortunately, with the old cinema. So after that cinema closed in 1990, I was like, obviously upset, end of an era, and I left Manchester for a couple of years. I went to Bristol. I was in Bristol for a couple of years, got involved with a little art house cinema down there called the Art Centre Cinema in the King Square area of Bristol. And yeah, a lovely little cinema run by a guy called Stephen Hagan, who's no longer with us, apparently, sadly. Anyway, but that was a couple of years of my life I spent in Bristol and doing some work at the art house cinema called the Art Centre Cinema. And I came back up to Manchester in 1983, and I thought I need to carry on where I left, really, with the Arban. So that's when I set up Kino Film Club. And basically, I took what I was doing in the Arban with the movies, the cult movies, the classics, the art house, the Soviet montage. Showing films like Man with a Movie Camera. Do you remember what a fantastic Soviet montage film? And basically at the time, of course, everything was on 16mm. So you had Film Bank and Glenn Bank films, and Film Bank Films, who had all the big 16mm archives of all the films all these old classics, like like Chinatown and Taxi Driver and Danger Diabolique and all these great films. So basically, I used to hire all these films, all the classics and cult movies from the 70s and 80s and the 60s, and obscure things like the Kuchar brothers, George Kuchar, things like really films that had not been shown in Manchester ever, like George Kuchar's Thundercrack, which was a legendary film, and I brought Matt Kuchar over from San Francisco, and we did a screening in Manchester, 2 screenings in Manchester, and we also did a screening in Liverpool, actually. Some bar on Mount Hill, from what I remember, and the landlord at the time, the landlord was so outraged that we come into his place and shown Thundercrack.
What are these men doing down here?
And he barred us. He said, "Don't ever come back."
Yeah, barred.
It was quite amazing. But I was doing this for a couple of years, and as you probably know, and I don't know whether you know, I've missed out a little gap there. As I spent also a couple of years in Liverpool, and I helped to set up the 051 cinema. Do you remember the 051?
Oh yeah, of course we do. Yeah,
Mount Pleasant. I was involved in setting up the 051 cinema with John Smith, the Smith brothers. We did the 051 club in the basement. I did the training floor upstairs, the performing arts centre upstairs, and the media gallery. And we had the cinema on the 3rd floor. And I did what I did at the Arbonne there, really. That was a great time. And I left there, that's what I had. And then I left there, and then I went back to Manchester, and then I set up the Kino Club and did all the cult movies. And it was a pop-up cinema. And we used to go around at Alders. I think we screened at over 35 venues in Manchester, basically, showing with a big, huge beast of a 16mm projector. And we'd hire the films in, bring them up, spool them up onto one big reel, and lug all this equipment, because we didn't have the video projectors then. So, well, not manageable portable video projectors. They just had those huge 3-bar ones that you used to have in the pubs. Do you remember?
Yeah,
the 3-bar projectors with 3 lenses.
We used to do it. The beam projectors, they call them.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I did that for a few years. For 3 years we did it, and then we started to do these short film nights as a result. It was a kind of natural progression for us, because at the time everything was coming out on DVD, and like we had the DVD boom, and all the old art house classics were coming out on DVD, and so the kind of market fell out of that a bit, and corner house had come along, and they were doing well with the art house cinema. So we moved into the short film movement. I did a couple of events with Exploding Cinema, which was a London organisation, but they'd set up a branch up north, and I did a couple of events with Exploding Cinema, and it worked really well, and I just got really into it. And I met this guy called, and I just got fascinated by short film, because obviously it had been around for a long time with people like the Kuchar brothers and all those experimental filmmakers. And the first festival that I ever did was like a underground, New York Underground Film Festival almost.
Oh yeah. That's still going on now, actually.
Remember? Yeah. Yeah. And it was great stuff. And it just developed from there, really. And then I set up the Kino Film Short Film Festival. The first one that I did was in 1995. And I'd met this young lass from Ireland. I can't remember her name now, but she introduced me to Heinz Hermans, who was director of Interfilm Festival in Berlin.
Oh wow!
I just got together with him and chatted with him, and I said, "How can I set up a festival in Manchester?" So him and this Irish girl, we just got together, with the Irish girl, and we set the first festival in 1995, and ran it at the Odeon on Oxford Road, and it was hugely successful at the time for the first event. And it was the first short film festival in the Northwest, from what I remember. Oh, it was great, and it just went from there, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, could you talk?
Obviously,
Well,
And
no,
we're now 25 years.
yeah, because I mean, basically around 95, 98, where you get this whole American boom of the independent filmmakers. Well, really like around 94, really, because you got Quentin Tarantino, you got Kevin Smith, and so everybody felt like, hey, I can pick up a camera and I can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is what you had. I mean, this was a really strong movement. Now, I mean, like as you say, 25 years later, like I said, this movement got really strong, especially like in the 2000s because of digital. It was easier to kind of like film, where you didn't have to worry about film
Yes.
cams
Yeah.
and film reels and
Yeah.
everything else like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
so at that time when I came along, like there were so many other independent filmmakers. That's what you would call ourselves. And I mean, so being a part
Yeah.
of the Kino Film Festival was actually a real interesting thing because you actually applied to bring films more internationally. So I remember, like, for me, it might have not been your second, but for me, it was my second when you had the Black and Asian, film festival. And you
Yes.
were having
Yes.
you
Yeah.
made
That
it
was
a
great.
point
Yeah. Yeah.
to introduce films that were made by people from different
Yeah.
cultures, and that's kind of like what you're doing
Yes.
now with this Kino Film Festival now,
Yeah.
which I wanted to point out
Yeah.
because in looking at the schedule of films, even though we're in the middle of your festival, I would just like to say to people, we are in the middle of the festival, but you are the films that you have on, they're from all over: Polish films, Iranian films, French films. This is fantastic. But
Yeah.
I will say,
Exactly.
when I looked at the list, I didn't see nothing that said American films. What's up with that, bro? What's happening? I'm just
We
like,
have got
bro.
lots of. We have actually got.
It doesn't say that you have a slot.
We have got lots.
American film.
we actually we have got American films in.
Okay,
And we've
all
already
right,
had
that's
a
cool.
few in already.
That's cool, man.
And if you look at the International Panorama program,
boy.
we've got two programs in the international section on Saturday, I think, or Sunday. Let me have a look. It's on May the 16th. We've got international program 1.
Oh, so when you say, all right, I seen that. I
also,
seen that on the list. So when you say international, see, you got to understand it's different for me. When you say international, that's when you say we'll bring the Americans in, right? Because a lot of the other ones say Polish, French, and everything because they're over here.
I'm with you, man. Exactly. And last year, and we all actually it's slightly different. I think that in previous years we have done an American independence program, but I think that before that we used to always do like an American underground program within the Kino Festival.
Well, like you said, the New York Underground.
But those films don't seem to be made anymore. So we used to get lots of like off the wall shorts, outrageous stuff and cult, and the stuff that people were doing deliberately underground filmmakers.
There's no John Waters.
That works. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, there's no John Waters, no Trauma, no James Gunn. You know what I mean? People aren't doing that. What happened to those people?
It's a shame, really, because there was some really some cutting edge work, and we used to love it. And as you know, we did an American Underground Film Festival a couple of years in Manchester.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can imagine. But then also too is that like so over the weekend, which I would like to encourage people, and I'm going to give you a chance to tell them about how they can participate. So what you're having is, or what you've been having is Q&As with the filmmakers, right? So, and over the weekend, it's getting a little bit more diversified because you got romantic tales, you got horror tales, fantasy tales, crime tales, and all that. So you got the separation. So if somebody looked at the schedule, okay, that's what I'm into. I'm gonna watch that. Do you know what I mean? So can you just tell me a little bit about what's going on there in that diversification? I mean, like, with those films?
Well, I think like today, for example, we've got we've got an experimental film program, which is probably as near to American Underground that we'll ever get. But and it's quite a strange program, and obviously it's experimental, and it is truly experimental. We've got some interesting films in, and we've got a Q&A after the film program with about 3 or 4 of the filmmakers. And then we've got our Iranian short film programs. We've got 2 Iranian films, and we always do. We have quite a big collection of Iranian cinema, and there's some really important work coming out of Iran. Some very powerful work by really new and established filmmakers who are producing short films, and getting them out to the Western world for us all to see. And there's some fantastic films, but we obviously we need people to see them and enjoy them, and because there's slices of culture in Iran, they're like fantastic stories, And then, of course, other sections to come are films directed by women. Particularly, we have the Women in Film section in the festival. That's also today, actually. Today, at 3:30, Women in Film International, and a couple of American films in there, I think.
So maybe at this point, John, so like if somebody wanted to participate, right, there still is a chance, right? Can you just tell us a bit about Binge Wave and like how much would it be and all that kind of stuff?
So obviously this year, this festival is normally live, but like everybody, we were affected by COVID, and this is the 2020 festival that we're actually running this year because it was postponed because of COVID, and we rescheduled it 2 times, and it was obviously postponed on all 3 occasions. So what we've done this year is divide the festival into 2. So the first part of the festival is, as you said, taking place this week as a live online edition, taking place on bingewave.com, which is the streaming platform that we're using.
And what we'll do is we'll put the link on this so that way hopefully people can be able to tap into that.
Yeah. And basically you can go in there, you can buy a festival, you can buy single screening tickets, which are a couple of quid, a couple of pounds, £2, or you can buy a day pass. You can buy a day pass for £5, or you can buy a festival pass for the rest of the week for £20. But also, it's good for your listeners if you use the code last minute. That will give you 50% off the festival pass. So you can buy a festival pass for £10 basically using the code last minute in uppercase, all in uppercase.
Yeah, we love them promo codes.
You just buy the pass.
Yeah,
exactly. And you just buy then once you're in, you can watch anything. All the programs are scheduled to screen at certain times. There will be initial streaming. So you go into schedule, look what's on today, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. And then the day after each program, everything's going into our video demand section. So you can go in, if you buy a ticket today, you can go onto the site and look at the films that we're showing on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. And yesterday's films will come live later today.
And also
see everything. And most.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say also you have the ability to. I was just going to say you also have the ability to watch the Q&As after the films. So I was going to say how important.
Exactly, and the film, and we've had some really interesting conversations with filmmakers from all over the world. And tonight, which is going to be interesting, we're doing Q&As with some Iranian filmmakers, which is I'm sure going to be a testing time. But hopefully, touch wood, it all goes smoothly, and we got an interpreter on board to help with the translation. If there's any language difficulties. So I'm looking forward to that. So if you can tune into the Iranian program tonight, anybody, that would be a good experience, I think, followed live by the live Q&As. And as I said, you can go back into the once you bought the tickets. Most of the films, not 100% of them, because some people requested not to go into the video on demand. But most of the films will be available up until the end of this month. So you can, the festival will be live until the end of this month, basically.
Wow. Well,
Which is good, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Listen, you had me at Kino because the idea of Kinofilm being like back, and especially in these times that we're actually coming out of, hopefully. But like, what's going to happen next for Kinofilm Festival? I mean, like, do you have like a plan for the next festival yet? Like, just to tease our whistle, what our appetite?
Well, is this what I was saying before was that we split last year's festival into two parts. So part one is the international section. So
I heard that, but you never said where part two was.
Yeah, because we're still talking about it, but part two is going to take place in October.
There we go.
The 17th, 18th of October until the 24th of October. The British New Wave section of the festival, so all the British work that was scheduled in the festival will be showing in that week in October at the Chapeltown Picture House in Manchester.
Wow.
That will be the main venue. Chapeltown in the Greenbank quarter of Manchester. And we might have one or two other screenings elsewhere, like at the Instituto Cervantes on Deansgate. And one or two other venues which have still got to be finalised. And then of course we've got our 2022 festival happening next year. And then we'll take it from there.
Oh wow! I mean, I just think that's just exciting. Go ahead.
Yeah, and because this year, sadly, most of your listeners will have missed the animation programs, which were yesterday. Animation Day yesterday. Everything was animation, but as I said, from tomorrow they will all be on live.
Yeah,
you'll be able to watch them all the animation programs online. And Saturdays are crime days, which you talked about before. It's the romantic tales, the comedy tales, the sci-fi tales,
rom-coms,
the horror program, and the rom-coms. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that day. That's a really great day. And of course, on Sunday we've got the international programs, and we've got the festival awards.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We've already filmed. Yeah.
You've already filmed
15 awards.
Ooh.
We've already filmed the awards ceremony because, of course, we can't do it live this year. So the decisions have already been made. We've filmed it, and the production team are putting it all together right now, and it'll be going out live at 8 o'clock on Sunday night.
Well, that's definitely something to look forward to. I mean, I just think it's great that like people have managed to film during the pandemic, create these shorts. People from all over the world. It only goes to show you can't keep a good filmmaker down. You know what I mean? And like if they
exactly.
want to, they'll make it. All they need is you to come watch it. You know what I mean? So that's what we have to really encourage people to do is to not just support the arts, but to support the cinema. You know, to support the filmmakers and everything. So
exactly.
What I just want to, so John, I mean that's our time. I mean, but basically, as we said that the festival is still going on for the weekend. It still is a chance that you can not just buy a ticket, but get a last minute ticket at half price, by promo code of last minute, all caps. And also too is to letting people know that it is on bingewaves.com. And so I encourage you please to look in the description for the hyperlink for how to actually navigate and find the schedule as well as the selection of films of your choice and everything. So I want to just thank, John Kino Wojcicki for joining us giving us the kind of like an origin story of Kino Film Festival. And it's good to know that Kino Film Festival will continue to thrive in the future. So, John, I just want to thank you for joining me here on the Community Podcast. Please like and subscribe. Call to action, people. Watch these films. Support your cinema. It doesn't matter if they're in Manchester. You know what I mean? They're online right now. It's the online edition. You don't have to go over there. I'm just saying.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Can I say one other thing, Chase?
Yeah, please.
If anybody, like, we're offering out the programs over the course of the rest of this year. If anybody wants to show any of the programs, like in the venues, because the venues will be reopening later this year, soon, and what things to put into, we can do the touring programs and offer you a package of films and all that kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff is going to be available.
Well, that's good to know, man, because entertainment, that's one of the big things about, coming back to life is that, with places opening up, they need forms of entertainment. And so why not, showing these films, these festivals. I have a friend in New York who actually runs this kind of a festival, Doug Leclerc, big shout out, Asbury Film Festival. But either way you look at it is, John is saying he's taking Kino Film on the road. So he's looking for a venue. So let's support, man. What do you got going on this weekend? That's all I got to say. But either way, John, I want to thank you for your time and everything and joining me here on the Community Podcast.
Yeah.
All right. So this is
Thank you for inviting me on, Chase. It was good to speak to you.
All right, no worries. This is John with Johnsty. I'm Chase Johnson Lynch. This has been the Community Podcast, and you know what? I'm out of here. All right.